but I want to show you the grape because it's so nice that I want you to have a glimpse on what is a vineyard, an estate vineyard. Here you can see the grapes here, and so it's going to be a pleasure just to pick them tomorrow morning. We'll begin at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we'll be finishing around 9. That's it. So we'll come back now and look at the wine as they are, and you see we are already with the small lawn mower, which we use just as tractor to bring the grapes and the grapes. There we go.
So Max, a quick question: those trucks, they fit between the rows, or people have like? Because I see they have a basket in the back. Do they drive between the rows of the vines, and then people just cut and put it into the back of the truck, or you have to carry it back to the truck?
I didn't get the question.
I'm sorry,
Could you repeat it? These are the two small tractors. We have one big tractor for heavy duty work, and two small tractors here with the wagon in the back. And we go in between the rows, and people put their boxes full of grapes inside. We bring them into the winery to cool in the air conditioning, and then we go back.
You see, it is hand-picked. All the grapes are hand-picked, and we pick them in small baskets, so there will never be more than 10 to 12 kilo of grapes in baskets, so that the fermentation will not begin. It's very important that the fermentation will begin when you want it to begin, and not just like that. So as it's going to be very hot, there is always a danger if you take a lot of grapes that they will press each other and there will be juice going out, and there will be a beginning of fermentation. So this is why we are using the small tractor to go back and forth during the time people are harvesting.
And you have people from the whole country who will be harvest, right?
Oh
Families
yes,
are coming.
the picking is done by all the family, of course, and my great I saw some we get a wine right now from Sfat, and also from the kids in the village. We have all the kids of the village are going to be coming tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock. Their parents will never be able to wake them up at 6 o'clock. Only when there is harvest will they wake up very, very eagerly and come here.
And what do they get in exchange? They get to eat the grapes. They get a bottle of wine for kiddush, grape juice. What do you make for them?
They are too young to get a bottle of wine. They are getting grape juice, of course, but they are also, I'm giving them a little something, and then we have a big breakfast. At the end of the harvest, we have a big breakfast with lots of things that they like, and it's a big, it's a happening coming in which is now a tradition in the village.
So it's really like a community event. It's the whole village gets together, right? That's what it sounds like.
All the kids of the village are coming.
At least the kids.
Right.
That's good.
That time of year, the sky is blue. The clouds are just starting to shift across the sky. It's still summer. It's still unbelievably hot here in Israel. But you can start to feel that change in the weather, signaling the beginning of autumn, the beginning of change. Will be here before we know it. And certainly the world looks a lot different now than it did last year, and yet these traditions are still taking place, and they're so wonderful. This way of connecting the land and the agriculture, the harvest, and the wine is special. And also, I can tell you, the grape juice that's yielded from these grapes is really good. My kids love coming here, and they really enjoy tasting it. It's the right blend of fresh and sweet and crisp, really.
And
Special.
this year even more than the other years, because the teenagers who normally during this period of the year, they have all kind of activities, camps, and all these kind of things. Because of the corona business, and they are kept at home. So they are looking for activities and they really like to do something. This is what is going to happen tomorrow morning. And
That's great.
what I want to maybe to speak about is some bad reputation which have been made to Israeli wines about not being able to age. Bloggers were saying kosher wine cannot age or whatever. I mean, like if kosher wine was different than any other wine. There is difference between kosher wine and mevushal, which is cooked wine. Okay, it's different. I mean, kosher wine, and our wine is kosher, is not mevushal, so that they have all the characteristics and the possibilities to age. Now, what does it mean for a wine to age? I mean, what is happening in the bottle? All right. Well, you see, when you do wine, you are playing around with polymers of chemicals, normal, regular, organic chemicals, which are combining to each other to form some molecules, which is going to give not only the taste, but also the smoothness of the wine. Wine is aging, and generally you put wine to age at a controlled temperature, like 15 degrees centigrade or something like that. And what you want to do is that these polymers will grow, and they will, at the end of the day, precipitate, and they will take out all the bitterness, all the taste which might be a little bit offensive in very young wine, like very acidic or bitter or this kind of thing. This will be precipitated into the bottle, and you will find that aged wine, when you look at the bottle, at the end or at the bottom of the bottle, you get some stuff, which is like if it was dirt. It is absolutely not dirt. This is exactly what you want on an aging wine, is to get some kind of deposit of all these molecules, all these polymers which were created during the aging. In order to do that, you have to make sure that the wine is, I would call it alive. I am biologist, so I resist telling that it is alive, because it's not really alive, but the enzymes which are working are indeed working. When you cook the wine, when you use wine which is mevushal, it doesn't say that mevushal is not good, it can be very good, but it's not going to move or evolve anymore in the bottle, because all the active principles, these enzymes are just killed. Not that they are alive, but I mean they are ineffective after they pass through 80 or 90 degrees centigrade for 2 seconds. So today this kind of thing is done very quickly. Pasteurization is now called flash pasteurization, because you pass the wine very quickly in front of a very high temperature.
So I got a question, Max. So these days, flash détente, flash pasteurization, these are becoming more common practice, or maybe not common, but at least they're starting to be practices that are used even in non-kosher wineries as a way, I guess, maybe to stabilize the product, to stabilize the juice, or for whatever reason that they use it, or maybe, especially with California fires, one of the things they recommend is flash détente to get rid of a little bit of the smoke taint. So are you saying that that this process is developing, and maybe we're at a time where in kosher mevushal could actually be of a higher quality, or you're saying regardless it's going to age differently when it's mevushal versus not mevushal?
Absolutely. I mean, wine which is mevushal is not going to evolve much more than what it is, because again you blocked or you fixed all the activities by this heating at 85 or 90 degrees. But it can be very good. I mean, you can have a very good a wine which is mebushal, because there is no reason why not. You are not touching the texture, because you do that very quickly. You don't waste the wine. But it's not going to evolve as well or as much as a non-mebushal wine. Of course, it is more dangerous for the winemaker to make a non-mebushal wine because it is going to evolve. Now, evolution can be good and can be also a disaster. It can turn into vinegar. You don't want that, or it can turn into all kind of bad taste. So you have to be a little bit more an artist, let's say, when you do wine which is non-mebushal than when you do wine which is mebushal. Also, the market like the mebushal wine because then you have no question about pouring the wine and all these halachic problems about the wine, which everybody knows about. Okay, so we are doing non-mebushal wine because we are very we respect very much the tradition of the winemaking. Tradition of winemaking means that, you know, it is like being a physician. What is the first recommendation of Hippocrates, the Greek, to the physicians? Don't do any harm. Okay? First of all, don't do any harm. No, we have fruits, which are extraordinary fruits. The grapes is an extraordinary. In fact, there is a nice midrash about why are we making kiddush on wine. On the Pri Geffen, on the fruit of the vine, and not on another fruit. And the Midrash saying, well, in the grapes, you have the taste of all fruits. And in fact, when you take wine and you distill the wine to make alcohol or to make papa or whatever you want to call it, at different stage of the distillation, you can taste the taste of apple, pears, plums, everything. So it is true. In fact, it's an incredible fruit. So the main task of the winemaker is not to waste this incredible fruit. So you have to respect the fruit when you want to make good wine. You have to decide exactly the time at which you are going to harvest by small quantities and mostly by hand picking the grapes more than like machine picking. And then you have to in a very mild way, and even the fermentation. You know, you could get fermentation wine in 1 week. It's enough. All the sugar of the grapes is going to become alcohol. Well, this is not going to give you a very good wine because you want the fermentation to go for a long time, as long as possible. 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Why? Why? Because during the fermentation, in fact, you are doing more than one thing. During the fermentation, you are making alcohol out of the sugar, but also this alcohol that you are making out of the sugar is leaking out of the peels, all the taste which is in the peel, and also in the pits of the grape. So this process, if you take it long enough, is going to take not only to make the alcohol for the wine, but it's also going to add the taste of the grape inside of the wine, and you are going to compose, in fact, the taste of your wine slowly. But of course, it is very dangerous. It is very dangerous because during this process, if you work not very cleanly or if you made errors in the way you handle the fruit and everything, then you might have fermentation will go in the wrong direction, and that's terrible. So, you know, when you have thousands of liters of wine which goes wrong, it never happened to me, but God forbid, I don't want to think about it. Okay, so
Max, all this talk about wine is getting me thirsty. I don't know which wine you're going to taste first, but I'm going to start pouring myself some 2013 Malbec. It's one of my favorite wines that you make. And I'm going to continue listening, but this is what I'm drinking. So if you happen to talk about it soon, I'll get to enjoy your notes while I'm drinking. But maybe we start with talking about one of the wines that you're going to start drinking. Just to give everyone a little bit of notes, maybe some people have some wine in front of them as well and they want to start drinking. And then we can take it from there.
Well, you are very lucky to have some Malbec 2013 because we don't have any more. We don't have any more of the 14. But we have here, in terms of Malbec, we have a wine which is from 2010. So this is a Malbec which is now 10-year-old, okay? If you look at it, I don't know if maybe I can put it very close to you so that you can see it, you know. It has a very nice color, very kind of dark, and if you see, it is not aged that much. I mean, in terms of the brown around the wine, it is still very palatable, and you know what? I'm going to drink L'chaim.
L'chaim.
First I smell it.
I need a steak with that.
This is so good.
We need barbecue, you know. It's with a Malbec, you really need barbecue.
Yeah, it's a good wine to pair with meat, barbecue for sure.
Yeah, actually, the 2010 we called it asado blend because we recommended it to go with asado, with the Brazilian barbecue.
That's perfect.
Nice. And mine just says Malbec.
It is Malbec, and you know we tried this name Asado blend because we had some Argentinian friends, and they wanted to make.
You do blend it with a little bit of cab in the 2013.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, 15%. We almost never do any pure
varietal.
Yeah, in the Malbec we always put about 10 to 15% of Cabernet Sauvignon to give a zik because the Malbec alone is a bit too strong, let's say, in terms of taste, and it can be a little bit bitter. So by just adding 10 to 15% cab, then we get the taste that we really like.
This isn't bitter. It's just exquisite.
So Max, maybe let's talk. I have the 2013 here.
Yeah.
And if I was blind tasting this wine, even if I knew it was a Malbec and I just had to guess the age, it still feels very young, right? I don't know what you're getting on the 2010, if you're already seeing some signs of aging, some secondary, tertiary notes. So maybe talk to me a little bit about the notes you're getting on the 2010 and also what someone could expect from the 2013 in terms of its development, because we're busting the myth here, right? We're saying these wines are meant to age. So I'm drinking a 2013 7 years later. How much longer will it go? And like, what am I looking for as this wine develops?
You see, in terms of okay, let's put it this way. Malbec is one of the more tannin-rich grape. And tannin is what is determining the possibility for a wine to age, okay? So, what you can expect for a Malbec is that at least for 10 years it's going to age. It's not going to deteriorate. during these 10 years going to get more and more nose, which is very important, you know, because the taste, the sense of taste is coming mostly from the nose and a little bit from the mouth, but a lot from the nose. So this wine, I can tell you that this one is 2010, has an incredible nose, and this expect from the 2013 is going to be good for at least 5 more years, like, you know, like anything. And
For sure, yeah.
I would recommend. We don't have. We had an incident on the Malbec in 1914. We are just recovering now, and we have. We didn't do Malbec, pure Malbec. Well, pure, not really, but Malbec label wine in 14 and in 16. In 17 and only this year, no, in 20, we are doing again the Malbec. It suffered from a virus, and now we're recovering. So this year will be the first year after 3 years that we are going to be able to again make Malbec. So,
okay. So this is a rare find these days because we're not going to have it for a while, you're saying. So whoever can get their hands on the Malbec, get it now, because it's going to be a couple of years before it's back in the market.
Enjoy the Malbec. I might ask you to bring some to here. We are missing it. But
you know what? I may be able to do that. I may be able to. I know someone who has some.
Okay, good.
You know a guy, good.
I know a guy.
You see, you have the rosé of 2019, and we don't have any more. I mean, we sold the last bottle last week. So, okay, if you can bring me some, I will be very happy.
We don't have a lot left. By the time I come to Israel, we'll have none left.
Okay, good.
I just can tell you that this 2010 Malbec is still full of tannins. It still feels even a bit fresh and young. And I would give it at least 3 years in the bottle, and it's still good to drink.
We are using 3 kinds of barrels. We are using American oak barrels, which are releasing more like vanilla, chocolate, this kind of taste. We are using the French oak, which are very classic and restrained, let's say. But we are also using Hungarian oak. And Hungarian is giving a twist, a very interesting, in between the American and the French oak in terms of the taste that it gives. And with the Malbec, we like to use most of the Hungarian oak and just a little bit of American and this French oak. So you can play. In fact, we had last week with Joel a very interesting experience.
Yeah, we tasted like 4 barrels, 2 of them French, one Hungarian, one American. And it's the same wine, 4 barrels. It was 3 different tastes. The 2 French were the same. The Hungarian was something completely different, and then the American released all these tastes of wood and chocolate and the same wine. It was really mind blowing.
So this is why, you know, when we compose our wine, I like to invite some people who are knowledgeable in wine making and also a good taste. Not to be a enologist, but people who like to make wine and drink wine, like our friends from the other that you know from Kosherwine.com. Like any Shiran wine, this kind of guide. So we decide together which wine to make.
So this is the 2009 Reserve.
Okay.
Sorry, which wine is that?
2009 Reserve.
Ah, Another, I mean, they're all good, so I can keep saying another good wine, but that applies to all of them. I never had the 2009, but I've had the 2012 for sure, 13, and I think even the 11. It's another really, really interesting wine. There you get a lot of, at least the ones that I've had, you get a lot of red, you got a lot of green, you get a lot of different things going on. It's really, I'm not going to open it now because I won't finish the bottle, but, and I'll save it for later this week. But wow, that's looking good. The color's still great.
Here it is.
I can smell it from here.
You smell the caramel.
I can taste it.
So that's 11 years. You said the 2009, right? So it's 11 years.
So, and this one is really at the verge of. I mean, I think that next year it will not be good. And it will not be good. It will be a little bit over, but it's still a very drinkable wine, degustation wine. You know, I always say that there are two kinds of wine. There are wine which accompany the food, and there are food which accompany the wine. Wine which accompany the food are like our village that you know well, and of course, but the reserve is really a wine which is a degustation wine. You degust. You want to make a degustation of the reserve, and then in order to get the full taste, you will couple it with some very good food like really cooked food. I mean, meat and all these kind of things. So let us try. I mean, it's 2009. You know, this guy was in prison for 11 years. So we opened it about an hour ago, and we have, you know, like somebody who was in prison. You really want to be very delicate with this person and re-bring it into the society and be gentle. So let's be gentle with this wine. You can see, maybe you can see that, yes. You can see the lumps which are going up.
The legs, yeah. The legs, yeah.
In Hebrew, we call it yes. Okay, here we go. So
I'm still working on the Malbec, but I'm excited to hear about this one. Go ahead.
The reserve is a mix of Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot and Malbec. Each of the kind of grapes is conducted separately to what the best we can do with the best barrels and everything, and then we put them together. We try to compose a wine which is well balanced, tasty, which has a good nose, and stay what's called long in the mouth. Okay, so that it will keep in the mouth. The taste will keep for a long time in the mouth. So each year we try to compose something which is related to the last year. I mean, when we make the 2012, we compare it to the 2011. What you have here, in the US, I believe, are 2013 and 2014. I believe, I don't remember. And they are all related. So it's a line. It's really a line of wine which we call the reserve, which is composed with in mind the other reserve we have from the previous year. So these wines are supposed to keep for at least 5 years after we begin releasing them. You know, when I say releasing them, is because in all winery we never release a wine which is not at least 3 years after the harvest. So we are now beginning only to sell here in Israel the 2016 wine. We didn't want to sell it before because we wanted it to age enough in the bottle to get the best of the taste. So this is the reason you have. I mean, David, tell me. I think you have the 2013. Very good.
Yeah.
You have
For the
2000
reserve, we still have the 2013.
Yes.
And for the Malbec, we also have the 2013. We may have a few of the, we may have some 2014. I have to check my inventory, but we may have some of the next vintage that we're about to switch, because like when we have a few bottles left and then we switch it over. So I believe we do have 2014 here in the US, but it will be released soon.
So here is this is the 2014. We'll try to just.
So you have the reserve 2014.
Yes, I have it here, and we'll just try it.
Okay, great.
So if you look at the wine 2014 as compared to what you saw before, you will see that it will be much redder. No, it is more
Right.
red. Okay, because it is younger. Also, when you look at the surrounding of the wine, you will see that it's red or pink and not brown at all. Okay, so this is not a young wine. I mean, it is 6 years old. All right, but it has plenty of years to go on. I mean, at least I would say that this one is going to be good up to 2025, because it is it has a very good tannin and acidity kind of equilibrium. So I believe it's a big potential. Next one, the 2016, because in 2015, of course, we didn't do any wine because of the Shmita, and the 16 is going to be even stronger than the 14, and we want to age it even a little bit more, so it will be less strong in the mouth. So this is the 14 that we have in the atom that you are going to release. So enjoy it. We are with you.
And if I can extrapolate from what we tasted before, 2009, right? And I believe that its peak and full maturity, I think that this 14 will reach full maturity in about.
It is more as it is today. It's a great wine for a good dinner.
Mhm.
No, it's a great wine for a very good dinner.
Actually, it's our star wine. I think a lot of people come to our tastings buy this wine because they like it so much.
I did it on Friday.
You know, we have every Friday morning. Some people are coming here and they enjoy. I mean, it's all for free. People come. They will come here. They will enjoy the place. I will let them go into the vineyard, and the kids, we give them some grape juice so that they also can enjoy with their parents. And it's also become a tradition here. What I didn't open, and maybe we should, is the Village. You know, Village is a great wine. I will tell you, that's a 2012 Village. I believe you have, David, you still have some.
Yeah, we have the 2014.
Oh, 2014, okay. But we are going to open 2012. I see that we have a 2014
No,
there.
2016 there.
Ah, we have 20.
Yes.
Okay. So Village is a totally different story. This is it came as a challenge how to make a wine which will be amicable for almost any food. Okay. So what I thought was that I would do something which is not very common, which is to pick up the Malbec grapes at full maturation, and then the Cab and the Merlot are missing 2 to 3 weeks for full maturation. Anyway, we would harvest these grapes, Cabernet and Merlot, before their full maturation. So they will be more acidic, but also with richer fruit taste. And put all these grapes together for fermentation. The chemical ID underneath, I cannot forget that I'm a biochemist, so I have to think about it. Okay. So what is the rationale? The rationale is that if we put these grapes together, the taste that is going to be composed by polymers coming from grape A to grape B to grape C and back and forth. So it will be a kind of a composite kind of tasting molecules. And in fact, this is why we made this village. And I like to say that my wife told me that this village wine saved her life. And the reason why is that when friends are asking us for dinner, they don't ask us to bring wine. They know we will, but we don't always know what they are going to prepare. So we bring the village. It goes with everything. So that's the village.
It's like the Swiss knife of wines.
Yeah, it's a Leatherman.
It's a Leatherman, right? And but also very fruity. It's nice, It's a good wine to have with any kind of Mediterranean food and so on and so forth. I would say rosé is for watermelon and white cheese, Bulgarian cheese, and this kind of thing, and salads and so on. Village for everything almost, and the reserve for special dinners when you really want to be really fancy.
Yeah. You want to
Awesome. So we've tasted the Malbec, we've tasted the Reserve, now we're tasting the Village. Those wines basically make up the red wine offerings. I know I've tasted some other stuff there, which I couldn't convince you to give me any of, like the port, which is fine. It is what it is. I'll have to just come to Israel to drink it. But these are basically the wines that we offer here in the U.S., the Village, the Malbec, and the Reserve. And we've tasted through some of those different vintages. And you've illustrated that, these wines age at least 10 years, possibly longer, and in most cases longer. A lot of it has to do with the tannin structure, that it gives it the ability to continue aging. And we've gone through the different, uses for that. The Malbec is good with meat, the Reserve is good with really specific dishes. It's really a food wine, and the Village is just good anytime. And then we talked about the rosé a bit. So what do we have to look forward to in the U.S. coming from your wines? Maybe talk to us about some vintages that are really good vintages, or anything exciting for us to look forward to.
Well, next time, David, you are going to get some Reserve 16, which is coming very, very well. As I said, it's quite strong, but it's a very good wine. And Village, I believe you are going to get Village 16 or 17. The 17 is very distinct, and I hope you are going to like it. And you should look forward also for in 2 or 3 years to get 2020, because the grapes are absolutely incredible. I mean, this harvest of 2020, with the winter we had here, which was a lot of water, and not too cold but cold enough, and no summer which is not so aggressive, but still good and hot. I think that the 2020 hold a lot of promises, and we are going to try not to spoil it. So I look forward, very I look forward.
That's the only good news out of 2020.
Yeah. And this wine,
Yeah, fine.
this wine is a leap of faith because this is our Reserve 2008, and we haven't tasted it yet, so we hope it's still good.
Oh,
And-
right.
and it's live from the Herstal wineries, and you'll see our faces and see our reactions.
And
So this is the 2008 Reserve.
Yes.
wow. Wow.
It's bar mitzvah for the wine right now.
It's yeah.
Yeah, it was a Shemitah vintage, right?
Wow.
Usually we say Shemitah vintage, whatever. But let's see how this one was. No, I think 2008 was a good vintage in Israel in general. It was before my times of being in the wine business, but from the things I've heard at least, 2008 was a pretty good vintage.
Yeah, actually, in 2008 we had a special Merlot, which was really only Merlot, nothing in it, and it was fabulous. But it was finished very fast. It was
In fact, 2008, when people ask me, when did you begin to make wine? I always say 2008, which is not true, because we began in 2006. In 2006, we used some grapes from another place because our vineyard didn't grow yet. And we made a beverage which was red, liquid, alcohol, but I will not call it wine. Okay.
but we were very proud with it at the time.
Yeah, right. So the first wine, 2008 was really the time when we made real wine. In fact, there was a wine critic, is the father of wine critics in Israel, Daniel Rogov, Zichrono Livracha, who by chance got in some France, I don't know where, he got a bottle of wine and he called me and he said, "Hey, I tasted your wine." I said, "Hey, Daniel Rogov tasted your wine?" That's incredible. So I went to him and brought him some wine. And, he was the kind of patron of our winery until he
That's the way.
yes. So I was doing this 2008 to his memory.
Yeah.
L'chaim.
I'm surprised.
All right, so how's it drinking, and give us some feedback on the 2008. It's still going. It's in peak. It's past peak. Where's it holding?
It will peak, but it's really a very deep wine with honey and chocolate smells and tastes, and it's nice.
But I think that it has. I see the end of it because it has become a little bit more acidic than the other wines, and so I don't believe that it's going to last for very long. But I'm surprised myself. I mean, I didn't open a 2008 from very long ago, so I'm very surprised. But I wanted to make the case of this crazy story about Israeli wine, kosher wine, which are date juice and which cannot age, and all the kind of thing that some wine critics believe they can. That they are peddling. So it's not true. It's just simply not true. Most of the winemakers today, I'm speaking about small wineries. I'm not speaking about the big wineries, but small wineries are so cautious about the way they are making the wine and the quality of the wine and everything. That's a different story altogether. I mean, forget the old too sweet, too alcoholic, too much wood. It's finished. This is finished. No, most of the winemakers are making very good wine. We have even people who are almost inventors in winemaking, like Yaakov Uriah is making incredible wines. So, I mean, really, winemaking in Israel has evolved very, very much.
Yeah, we are very, very creative and crafty and inventive colleagues, really. And it's always a pleasure to another wine from a small winery and see and actually feel the people behind the wine, because each winemaker does something else. It wonders. It's really wonders.
Okay.
Listen, like everything else, the Israelis find a way to innovate. They, obviously, wine is, has been around in Israel forever. But in terms of becoming more industrial, it's more of a recent thing. At least the kosher, the kosher/kosher palate has evolved over the last 20, 30 years, and I think that Israelis do what they do. They innovate. They push the envelope. They come up with ways to make things their own and to take it to the next step. And I tend to agree with you, Max, that over the last few years, even recently, a few years, I mean, it could be going back even further, but when I meet all the people there and I start hearing the different conversations, and recently over, I would say my last 2 trips to Israel with meeting with winemakers, and these are even from larger winemakers, a lot of them start talking about, producing wines that are going to be consumed in Israel, given the climate, given the, the kind of foods that people eat there. So now they're looking at lighter reds, more whites, where before it was like, what's wine? It's Cab, or, like that, and Chardonnay or whatever. And then you just produce because you have to find the product that's where the market is at. So I think the 2 things together, the market, developing a better palate, getting more into wine, the winemakers then taking it a step further. So it's everybody's pulling each other or pushing each other forward. And I think it's a really exciting time to be a kosher wine drinker, to be a kosher wine maker. I can't speak for you, but I'm assuming it is, because that you can then push the envelope and there'll be a market for it. Whereas before you weren't sure, perhaps, if you made something interesting, would people even buy it? And you don't want to be stuck with that. So I think it's a great time to be a kosher wine consumer.
Yeah, and actually, even if you don't drink only kosher wine at home, we believe that it's a must to have a good wine to do kiddush on. Okay, so when you do kiddush for Shabbat, it has to be a good wine. It has to be a kosher wine because it's kiddush.
And it has to be a Herzberg wine, you're supposed to say.
No. We have good colleagues. We have good colleagues. Right?
This is one of the professions in Israel where everybody is complimenting everybody else.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Spirit of abundance.
So, in fact, I want to make also a case for the white wines. No, we don't do any white wine, so it is not advertisement for ourselves. I think that the evolution of white wine in Israel is fantastic. I mean, we had some, in fact, sweets or semi-sweet white wines. Today, I mean, they are really very good white wines, and dry, semi-dry, very good wine. And there are some wine made in Galilee, fantastic.
Yeah. And some nice orange ones too.
Yeah, some orange wine as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so listen, I think you definitely convinced me that Israeli wines could age. I mean, I kind of came in with that premise anyway, so it didn't take much convincing for me. And I know that there's a lot of people out there with loud voices who have their strong opinions. But I think that the consumer can't be fooled, at least can't be fooled for long, right? You can't fool everybody all the time. So maybe in the beginning, there's some preconceived notions, but I think as the kosher wine consumer, even the Israeli wine consumer, kosher, non-kosher alike, is exposed to these wines, starts drinking them, they start to realize that there is something truly special. There's certain things coming out of Israel that are very unique to Israel. And I think it will just continue that way. So these wines could age, they're making fantastic wines. The only last thing for people to do is try them and make their own decision.
So you know what? Please convene to all the people who are looking at us right now that whenever this Corona business is going to stop, and it is going to stop, and they fly to Israel, they are very welcome to a winery.
We're going to make a post-corona party. You know, here there's some people who make COVID parties so that they can get the disease. I'm not getting political or anything, but it's a thing here, or it was a thing here. So we're going to make a post-COVID party. So when we can travel again and it's all over, we're all going to come to the winery and we're going to party. We'll make sure it's a Friday so it works with your schedule.
Great. You make a David party.
A David party, a COVID David party.
All right, drink to that.
All right, l'chaim, l'chaim.